Hey guys, tonight we're taking a warm, wandering stroll through the forgotten healing foods of ancient Korea. Picture this. It's just after sundown in a quiet mountain village somewhere in the Joseon Dynasty. Thatched roofs glint with dew under moonlight. The scent of damp earth mixes with smoke curling up from cooking fires, and in the distance, someone is lazily pounding rice cakes in time with cicadas. You're here as a curious traveler, invited not by a grand palace gate, but by the humble kitchen door of a healer's home. Though you'll soon discover, this humble kitchen has more secrets than any royal court. As you step through the threshold, a clay hearth greets you with a bubbling pot. The smell is sharp and sweet and strangely comforting. This, your host explains with a wink, is insam guk, ginseng stew, a medicinal staple so revered it could win favors in court or even spark family feuds over the last root. Your modern stomach might protest, but the people of Joseon believed this earthy brew could restore qi, boost your vital heat, and make your bones less whiny during monsoon season. You probably won't survive this era's diet with your Wi-Fi cravings and lactose intolerance. But let's not judge. We're here to observe, to taste gently, and to drift slowly into stories steeped in steam, broth, and belief. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, post your location and local time down in the comments. I love seeing where and when people are listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit cross-legged beside the hearth as the healer, a middle-aged woman in hemp robes, pokes at the fire with a stick that's seen better decades. She's boiling dried ginseng root harvested from the slopes of Mount Ginseng, or so she says. You wouldn't know the difference, but she insists you can tell a mountain root by its tiger tail twist. This stew, she tells you, isn't just food. It's what the local scholar swears by when his joints creak louder than his inkstone. She spoons you a bowl. The first sip is earthy, like someone strained mushroom tea through a sock filled with hope. But as it goes down, it warms your chest, and something in the bitterness makes your jaw unclench just slightly. Maybe that's just your imagination. Maybe not. Historically, Korean ginseng, or insam, was far more than a folk remedy. Records from the Donggi Bogum, a towering 17th century medical text compiled by royal physician Heo Jun, praised it for its ability to restore energy, sharpen memory, and even balance emotions. Which means, of course, it was also excellent at soothing guilt over skipping Confucian rituals. But ginseng was also political. During the Joseon period, Korea's wild-grown red ginseng was so valuable it became a core part of tributary trade with Ming and Qing China. Local farmers guarded root patches with something close to religious fervor. Royal envoys stuffed dried slices into lacquered boxes for diplomatic gifts. It wasn't just medicine, it was soft power, or maybe chewy power, depending on preparation. The healer refills your bowl. You're starting to detect hints of jujube and wild sesame, maybe even a touch of mugwort, though she won't confirm it. A woman must keep her stew recipes secret. she says, narrowing her eyes. Or the spirits get bored. You nod solemnly. That sounds entirely valid. In modern terms, ginseng is still researched for potential effects on the immune system, blood sugar, and cognitive function. But back then, its efficacy came as much from belief as biology. Even today, historians still argue whether its reputation stemmed more from pharmacology or the placebo of cultural reverence. You lean back against the heated floor, full in both stomach and spirit. Outside, a pine tree creaks. Somewhere, a rooster, deeply confused by moonlight, begins to crow. The healer chuckles. He always thinks it's morning when I boil this batch. You wonder if even chickens are soothed by the scent. Before you fall asleep right here by the hearth, and don't worry, there will be more naps offered, you decide to explore the village a little further. Tomorrow, you'll learn about sweet Juju broths, medicinal dumplings stuffed with mugwort, and garlic crushed under moonlight. But for tonight, you drift off with the taste of ginseng on your tongue, and the comfort of knowing that sometimes history smells like soup. By morning, you're already starting to smell sweet things in the air. The sun has just crested over the tiled rooftops, spilling pale gold onto the worn stone paths. Dew glistens on the pumpkin vines snaking across the fence, and from a nearby kitchen, the gentle clinking of metal against ceramic stirs your curiosity more effectively than any rooster ever could. You wander into the courtyard of an elderly apothecary where a large pot simmers gently over a charcoal brazier. Inside, thin slices of ginger swirl lazily with bright red jujubes, small wrinkled fruits that look like a cross between a date and a berry. The aroma is deeply comforting, part dessert, part medicine, part warm hug from someone who doesn't ask too many questions. You sit beside the apothecary, who seems more amused than surprised by your presence. He motions to the pot and tells you, "This is for the lungs, and sometimes the heart, especially when both are tired from missing someone." You raise an eyebrow. That's oddly poetic for a man with a chili pepper tattoo on his forearm. This ginger juju brew, he explains, was commonly used to treat respiratory issues, especially during the bone-damp winters of the Korean peninsula. According to traditional medicine, jujubes are blood-nourishing, while ginger warms the channels, which sounds both deeply metaphorical and also possibly electrical. Either way, you're handed a wooden cup before you can protest. The taste is tangy, sweet, and with just enough heat to make your tongue feel like it's wrapped in a cozy cotton robe. It's soothing in that I didn't know I needed this until now kind of way. The apothecary watches your face for a reaction, then chuckles when your eyelids begin to droop slightly. See? Even sadness doesn't want to argue with jujube. Beyond the flavor, these ingredients were frequently mentioned in Korean medical texts for their healing properties. Dongi Bogam describes jujube as calming the spirit, while ginger was considered crucial for digestion and expelling cold qi. In many households, especially those without access to royal doctors, a mother or grandmother would be the family's de facto healer, stirring up these broths at the first sign of a cough, a chill, or a moody teenager. One fringe belief the apothecary shares, quite proudly in fact, is that this same broth, if taken right after waking from a bad dream, would seal the dream from escaping your body, thus preventing any misfortune it might bring. He offers no scientific reasoning, just a knowing nod and another ladleful. You ask him about other uses. He tells you that during royal processions, court ladies would carry jujube sachets to calm nausea from the long, bumpy rides in sedan chairs. Sometimes it worked, he shrugs. Sometimes they just got out and threw up behind a bush. Sleepy storytelling at its finest. You wander around his work table while sipping your brew, admiring the collection of dried roots, shells, and powders. One thing catches your eye: a carved wooden spoon with what looks like tiny tally marks etched into the handle. That's my cough counter, he grins, to see if the brew is working before they ask for a refund. You smile, not entirely sure whether he's serious. Historians still argue whether jujube's medicinal value in ancient Korea was based more on anecdotal tradition or measurable chemistry. Some modern research points to antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, but the most compelling evidence might just be how many generations insisted on keeping it simmering all winter long. Just as you're finishing your cup, a young girl rushes into the courtyard with a scratched elbow and very dramatic tears. The apothecary shoos you aside with mock gruffness. "Back to work," he says. "Heroes don't make their own tea." You take that as your cue to explore the village again. As you pass through the alleyways, the jujube's sweetness lingers in your mouth. You wonder how many lovesick poets over the centuries used this same brew as a liquid pick-me-up. You imagine a young scholar waiting for a letter that never comes, sipping this tea and scowling into the fireplace like it owes him money. You reach a small stone bridge, the kind that always seems to have one damp spot, no matter how sunny the day. Beneath it, a boy and his grandmother are fishing with a bamboo pole and what looks like leftover rice cakes for bait. You wave. The boy scowls. The grandmother waves back and offers you a dried persimmon, unasked. You take it, tuck it in your sleeve, and decide not to eat it just yet. There's a feeling here, of quiet care, of food passed without fanfare, that tells you everything you need to know about ancient Korean healing. This wasn't about dramatic cures or miracle herbs. It was about small comforts layered over time, like blankets stitched from shared stories and sleepy wisdom. You find yourself drawn down a narrow path lined with wild mugwort, its sage-green leaves brushing against your ankles, releasing a scent both grassy and faintly medicinal. The village is stirring now, roosters in full performance mode, a few children chasing each other with sticks that might be swords or brooms, and a very determined cat dragging what looks like a chunk of radish across someone's front step. But your attention is captured by the sight of steam rising from a bathhouse nestled behind a cluster of persimmon trees. You're waved in by an older woman wrapped in linen, her cheeks ruddy from the steam and her arms strong from years of stirring giant pots. She speaks softly but moves quickly, ushering you into a warm room where Mugwart-infused water bubbles in wooden tubs. You're not here for a soak, though, at least not yet. First, she insists, you must try the suk teok, Mugwart rice cakes. The dumplings are small and pale green, made with glutinous rice flour and just a touch of natural sweetness from honey or crushed chestnut. She hands you one wrapped in mulberry paper and waits expectantly. It's chewy, earthy, and slightly bitter in a way that makes your eyebrows lift and your stomach hum. cleanses the blood, she says, nodding with approval. Also clears bad dreams if eaten before bed. Mugwart, or suk in Korean, was one of the most frequently used herbs in both food and traditional medicine. It shows up in soups, pancakes, teas, and yes, baths. Long believed to warm the womb, dispel cold energy, and ease joint pain, Mugwort also carried spiritual weight. Some even claimed it protected against ghosts, though whether by ingestion or osmosis in bath water was never totally clear. You dip your hands in one of the tubs. The water is green-tinted and smells like a herbalist's garden after rain. It's the kind of scent that makes you want to hum an old lullaby, even if you don't know one. The woman offers you a wooden ladle. Pour it over your head. Wash the doubts out of your hair. That sounds both metaphorical and mildly threatening, but again, you comply. Historians still argue whether Mugwort was truly effective for treating internal ailments or if its popularity stemmed more from its accessibility. It grew easily along roadsides and hills, making it the people's herb. A kind of scrappy, loyal remedy that always showed up when you needed it, like an aunt with a good memory and no filter. One peculiar tidbit she shares, while gently scrubbing your arms with a bundle of mugwort leaves tied with rice straw, is that during the Dano festival, young women would weave mugwort into their hair before leaping onto swings suspended from tall trees. To keep bad luck from catching in your braid, she explains. You ask what happens if you don't. She shrugs. Well, then maybe you fall in love with the wrong blacksmith. Later, she lets you watch as she prepares mugwort soup, a humble dish simmered with soybean paste and bits of tofu. It's not fancy, but as the pot bubbles, she stirs it with something approaching reverence. This was my grandmother's cure for belly aches, she says, and for the sadness that comes when no letters arrive in spring. That seems oddly specific, but also relatable. The dumplings, she explains, were traditionally made to celebrate spring's arrival, a gentle nudge from nature saying, hey, maybe try digesting again after all that fermented radish. But they were also fed to women after childbirth, or to the sick, or even the recently heartbroken. There's a quiet wisdom to that, the recognition that healing isn't just physical. Sometimes it's about chewing something simple while someone sits beside you and doesn't ask questions. The bathhouse itself is an old structure, patched with clay in places and draped with drying herbs like a sleepy apothecary's coat. You notice a charm above the doorway, a thin strip of paper with calligraphy and what might be chicken feathers. To keep the jealous spirits from sniffing out our snacks, she says, completely straight-faced. You take a slow breath. The combination of steam, mugwort, and warm rice cake is hypnotic. Outside, the wind rustles the persimmon leaves. A rooster crows again, as if narrating your life in real time. You lean your head back and close your eyes. Maybe mugwort won't fix your liver or banish your nightmares for good. But in this moment, soaked in herb-scented calm, with warm dumplings in your belly and a wise-cracking bath matron by your side, you're inclined to believe it just might. You find your way back to the main village path, the warm scent of mugwort still clinging to your sleeves like an herbal souvenir. Somewhere nearby, a carpenter is gently sawing wood, the rhythmic rasp echoing across courtyards like a lullaby for anyone who happens to be within earshot. You follow the sound of firewood snapping, and it leads you to a quieter house, smaller than the others, but surrounded by an impressive garden. It's here you meet an elderly man hunched over a pot of simmering soup, his hair tied in a simple cloth, and his eyes peering through glasses so thick they might be made of window panes. He greets you with a nod and a spoon. Have some taro. Good for the digestion, bad for small talk. You chuckle, but take the spoon anyway. The soup is cloudy, the color of polished stone and speckled with greens and slices of taro root, one of Korea's traditional earth foods. Its texture is soft, somewhere between a boiled potato and a dreamy tofu. The flavor is subtle, nutty, with just a hint of bitterness. It doesn't ask for your attention, it earns it slowly. He explains that in ancient Korea, taro, toran, was especially prized during harvest seasons and among poorer households for its medicinal value. While not as glamorous as ginseng or as widely known as ginger, taro was considered excellent for easing stomach troubles and cooling internal heat. According to traditional East Asian medicine, that meant anything from actual fevers to emotional stress that made you feel like your chest was roasting a small duck. You sit beside the man on a flat stone as he slowly fans the coals. He shares how taro would often be dried and stored during the summer, then ground into powder for medicinal pastes and porridge come winter. Mothers would give it to children with nervous bellies, he says, or to husbands too proud to admit they were scared of army service. Historians still argue whether taro was a staple food or more of a supplementary one in Korean antiquity. Its presence in ancient records is sparse, likely because it was more common among the rural and working classes, whose diets were rarely detailed in royal documents. Still, archaeological digs near Han River sites have turned up evidence of taro cultivation, often near water-rich plots and family burial mounds. There's a fringe belief the old man delights in sharing, that boiled taro, eaten before a long journey, could protect travelers from stone heart, a vague but ominous condition he describes as the feeling of becoming emotionally petrified. You know, he adds, when you start to feel more like a roof tile than a person. Honestly, relatable. As the breeze picks up, you watch a young woman nearby weaving lengths of hemp into a drying rack. She's boiling what looks like beans, but the scent is unmistakably nutty, almost floral. It's Pilla, another staple healing food of ancient Korea, and often confused with sesame. She sprinkles crushed Pilla seeds into a side dish of greens, laughing as a baby tries to steal a piece with their gums. Pilla oil was frequently used in ancient cuisine and medicine, believed to strengthen the lungs and ward off fatigue. In village medicine, it was used for treating colds, skin inflammation, and, according to some texts, the occasional moody teenager who refused to go outside. You ask her if that's true. No idea, she shrugs, but it tastes good, and that's healing enough. She hands you a small Pilla rice ball wrapped in lotus leaf. It's light, aromatic, and unexpectedly filling. You chew slowly, each bite grounded in the soft warmth of simple ingredients and the quiet authority of generations who knew how to make something powerful out of very little. Together, you and the old man shell a few chestnuts as the sun begins to slide into early afternoon. He mutters something about the healing power of repetitive tasks, and you have to agree. There's something calming about cracking chestnuts open with a flat stone while listening to someone hum a song you've never heard but somehow know. One chestnut is shaped like a tiny heart. You show him. He squints. Lucky, he says. Means you'll live long enough to forget what made you sad. You smile and tuck it into your pouch. Who needs science when you've got wisdom like that? Later, as he begins to nod off under the sun, you rise and stretch. Your limbs feel soft, like well-boiled radish, and your thoughts have slowed into a comfortable loop of chestnuts, perilla, and taro root. None of these things would be sold in a flashy tonic bottle or touted on a late-night ad. But maybe that's why they work, because healing doesn't always come in a rush. Sometimes it simmers. You leave the old man and his sleepy courtyard behind, the scent of taro and perilla still lingering in your thoughts like the aftertaste of a well-told story. The path winds downward now, toward lower fields and a shallow stream that chuckles over smooth stones. The midday air is warm but not overbearing, with the kind of breeze that brushes your earlobes like a soft secret. You pause near a low wooden house that smells unmistakably of fermentation, that heady, almost cheesy tang that says, something powerful is happening in jars behind this door. And sure enough, a row of earthenware ongi crocks lines the yard like sleepy sentinels. Some are sealed tight with woven straw lids. Others have been left slightly ajar, their contents bubbling gently in the sun. A young woman greets you. Her sleeves are rolled up, and her hands are dyed faintly red from gochugaru, Korean chili powder. She laughs when you wrinkle your nose. It's not rotten, she says. It's alive. She offers you a taste from a small ceramic dish. The flavor hits your tongue with a jolt. Spicy, salty, funky, and just a little sweet. Welcome to the world of ancient kimchi. While the word kimchi brings to mind today's fiery Napa cabbage staple, in early Korea it referred more broadly to a whole spectrum of fermented vegetables, many of them far milder and more medicinal in intent. In fact, before chili peppers arrived from the Americas in the 16th century, kimchi was typically made with turnips, mustard greens, and radish, seasoned with salt, garlic, and fermented fish sauces. The goal wasn't heat. It was preservation and healing. The woman shows you a jar of what she calls dongchimi, a winter water kimchi made with radish, pear, and just a whisper of ginger. Good for coughs, she says, and for days when you feel like a ghost stuck in your own body. The broth is cool, salty sweet, and soothing in a way that makes your shoulders drop half an inch just from the first sip. Historians still argue whether kimchi was originally considered food or medicine. Traditional Korean medical texts often mention jang, fermented sauces, and pickled vegetables as essential to balancing the body's humors, especially in cold months when fresh produce was scarce and digestion grew sluggish. Even the famed physician Heo Jun noted that fermented foods help the body's inner fire burn more steadily. You learn that in some villages, families would bury their kimchi ongi underground for insulation. The jars were often marked with symbols or charms to keep the pickles from growing stubborn, as one elderly farmer put it. There was a kind of animistic respect for these bubbling jars, as if each one held not just vegetables, but a quiet will to protect and preserve. One quirky practice? Some healers would prescribe baek kimchi, a mild, non-spicy white kimchi, for people recovering from heartbreak or grief. The idea was that spicy foods stoked inner fire and stirred the emotions too roughly, while white kimchi cooled the chest and encouraged quiet strength. soft food for soft feelings, your host says with a wink. Inside her home, shelves of drying herbs and pickled roots line the walls. She slices thin pieces of fermented garlic, placing them on dried seaweed sheets. It keeps the blood moving, she explains, and keeps your thoughts from going moldy. That last bit may not be in any medical manuscript, but it resonates deeply. She also gives you a spoonful of fermented soybean paste, a dense, salty paste called doenjang, used for everything from soup to skin treatments. Some say a spoonful a day can stave off stomach problems, while others used it in poultices for aching joints. One fringe theory, she confides, is that rubbing doenjang on your feet while sleeping under a gourd roof will chase away nightmares. Hasn't worked for me, she adds, but I have stubborn dreams. As the afternoon sunlight filters through the wooden slats of the house, casting soft stripes across the floor, you sip a final bowl of dongchimi broth. Your host offers a smile and a parting gift, a small pouch of dried radish leaves for tea. For digestion, she says, and if you run out of pillow stuffing. You step back outside, belly warm and head pleasantly foggy. The crocs continue their slow, bubbling vigil as the wind stirs the dried chili strings hanging from the rafters. There's something undeniably calming about fermentation. Not just the science of it, but the faith. The belief that time, salt, and patience can transform even the humblest ingredients into something life-giving. And in a way, it mirrors healing itself. You don't need drama, just a quiet space, a little warmth, and the courage to let things bubble in their own time. You wander down the slope of the village, a path softened by moss and pine needles, until the sun dapples through tall trees and the air turns fragrant with something sweet and earthy. A low wooden building rests near the tree line, its roof heavy with thatch, its windows wide open to the breeze. You're drawn forward by the delicate smell of steaming rice and something vaguely floral, like crushed leaves steeped in honey. Inside, a woman is folding rice into bundles wrapped in lotus leaves. Her hands move in slow, practiced arcs, as if she's composing a lullaby with grains and folds. These are yakbap, she tells you, literally, medicinal rice. Sweet, sticky, and studded with chestnuts, pine nuts, and jujubes, yakbap was both festival food and healing tonic. She unwraps one and offers it to you. It glistens slightly in the light, golden and soft, scented with sesame oil and cinnamon. As you take a bite, the rice yields with a pleasing chew, and the flavors bloom gently on your tongue. It's not cloying, just richly warm, like the memory of a good nap. Yakbap wasn't just for celebrations. In ancient Korea, it was often prepared for patients recovering from illness or offered in temples to wish for wellness and peace. Glutinous rice was believed to strengthen the body, while jujubes and chestnuts nourished the blood and calmed the heart. One bite, the woman says, and the soul feels less scattered. Historians still debate the origins of yakbap, whether it was adapted from palace cuisine or folk medicine. What's clear is that it became a cherished comfort food across all classes, sometimes modified with regional herbs, or served with medicinal teas like omija cha, 5-flavor berry tea, said to balance all 5 elements in the body. You sip some now, the tea brewed dark red, its taste strangely layered, sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and pungent all at once. It clears the mind, the woman says, Or at least it confuses it enough to forget you were anxious. That feels about right. Nearby, she shows you a wooden cabinet filled with dried ingredients, thin sheets of kelp, packets of ginseng, and delicate white lotus seeds. These were temple foods too, she explains. In Buddhist monasteries, meals were considered part of the healing process, crafted with intention, eaten slowly, and always balanced in texture and energy. A monk with a headache might be given lotus seed porridge. A tired laborer might receive black sesame gruel to revive his limbs. One shelf holds dried slices of beko root, a rare herb said to lower fevers and ease lung inflammation. Very expensive, she notes, and very bad tasting, like chewing on bitterness and your regrets. She laughs softly and closes the cabinet. You help her fan a small fire under a bamboo steamer as she prepares tiok, rice cakes pounded smooth and dense. She explains how different tiok types serve different purposes. Injolmi, covered in powdered soybean flour, was soft and cooling. Beksolgi, a snowy steamed rice cake, was used in birthdays and recovery rituals alike. The more plain it looks, she adds, the more healing it's supposed to be. A bit like old people. There's a quiet pride in the way she moves. No flair, no rush, just steady care with each food. You realize that in many ways, ancient Korean healing wasn't built on dramatic potions or exotic cures, but on the humble repetition of meals made with purpose. Not superfoods, just food. Made super by time, love, and a deep understanding of how hunger can live in the body and the heart. As you chew a slice of honeyed rice cake, she tells you about a custom in the Goryeo period where a new mother was served myeokguk, seaweed soup, every morning for weeks after childbirth. Seaweed was believed to cleanse the blood, replenish minerals, and encourage healing. Some say this tradition began after ancient Koreans observed whales eating seaweed after giving birth. Makes sense, she says with a shrug. Whales know things. She hands you a small cloth pouch filled with roasted barley. You can make tea from it, or just chew it when your thoughts are too loud. You slip it into your pocket, grateful for a culture that even provides snacks for your overthinking. As you step back into the sunshine, the air feels a little richer. Your stomach pleasantly full, your pulse steady. The sticky rice still clings to your teeth a little, and you don't mind. Everything about that moment feels gentle. No blaring solutions, just the reminder that sometimes healing is quiet, soft, and delicious. You continue your gentle walk through the village, the warm light shifting softly as the afternoon begins to wane. The scent of pine mingles with faint traces of incense smoke, drifting from a small shrine nestled between two ancient oaks. You approach the shrine, curious about what kind of healing secrets it might hold. Inside, a middle-aged woman is carefully preparing a herbal infusion, mixing powdered roots and dried flowers with precision and reverence. She greets you with a calm smile and invites you to sit on a woven mat nearby. The air is thick with the aroma of ginseng and mugwort, a combination both earthy and slightly sweet. She explains that many Koreans have long believed in the spiritual power of medicinal plants, not just their physical healing properties, but their ability to ward off bad luck and restless spirits. Mugwart, in particular, was often hung in doorways or burned to purify spaces and promote restful sleep. You watch as she prepares a cup of sukcha, mugwort tea, stirring it slowly before handing it to you. The taste is mild but complex, slightly bitter with a faint grassy undertone, almost like walking through a damp forest after rain. You sip slowly, feeling the warmth settle in your chest like a soft blanket. In ancient Korea, mugwort was considered a universal remedy, used to treat everything from digestive complaints to menstrual cramps. It was also a favorite ingredient in traditional sleep aids, wrapped into small pouches or sewn into pillows to calm restless minds. Some villagers even believed that a mugwort-filled mattress could protect against nightmares, a claim historians still debate for lack of concrete evidence, but fascinating nonetheless. She then shares a lesser-known tale from the Joseon Dynasty, how women used mugwort-infused rice cakes during the Dragon Boat Festival to protect their families from illness. This festival, celebrated with boat races and song, was as much about community healing as it was about seasonal change. As you listen, she carefully crushes a handful of dried chrysanthemum flowers, adding them to the tea. Chrysanthemum, she says, is another gentle herb believed to reduce fever and soothe tired eyes. Good for those who read too much by candlelight, she jokes softly. You ask about the more unusual remedies you've heard of, like placing crushed snakeskin in ointments or bathing in river water mixed with crushed herbs. She nods thoughtfully, explaining that many such practices combined practical herbal knowledge with spiritual belief. Healers were as much priests as physicians, she says. Their treatments worked on body and soul alike. One quirky note she offers is the use of Sanghua Tang, a bitter herbal decoction traditionally given to those recovering from long illnesses. It was sometimes described as medicine for the brave because of its strong taste and invigorating effects. The woman winks and says, "If you can drink this without grimacing, you're already halfway to healing." Historians still argue about the origins and efficacy of many of these herbal mixtures, whether their benefits came from placebo, chemistry, or centuries of careful observation. What remains clear is the deep connection between nature, health, and daily life in ancient Korea. You finish your tea, feeling lighter and calmer, as if the gentle forest scent has wrapped around your thoughts. The shrine's quiet offers a peaceful pause in your journey, a moment to remember that healing is often as much about patience and presence as it is about herbs and potions. The sun tilts lower now, casting long, soft shadows across the village's worn stone paths. You find yourself drawn toward a modest garden tucked behind a cluster of wooden houses. It's a peaceful patch of earth, carefully tended, bursting with leafy greens and delicate flowers. The gardener, a wizened old man with a gentle smile, beckons you closer. He tells you that this is a healing garden, a living pharmacy where each plant has a purpose, a story, a whispered promise of relief. You kneel beside him as he points to vibrant patches of Pilla leaves, known locally as delkai. The leaves are deep green with a faint, almost minty aroma. Pilla, he explains, was prized not just for cooking, but as a remedy for digestion and inflammation. You learn that Pilla oil, pressed from the seeds, was often used to soothe upset stomachs and clear nasal congestion. The gardener cracks a few seeds between his fingers, releasing a warm, nutty scent that lingers pleasantly. Nearby, bunches of angelica leaves sway gently in the breeze. Angelica is like a gentle guardian, he says. It supports the blood and eases women's pains. He plucks a leaf and hands it to you. The taste is bittersweet, with a faint hint of earthiness. He notes how Angelica featured prominently in traditional postpartum care, helping new mothers regain strength. As you explore, the gardener reveals a curious ritual. Villagers would sometimes hang bundles of dried herbs, including mugwort and wormwood, above their beds to encourage peaceful sleep and keep away bad dreams. Some swear it works, he chuckles. Others say it just smells like Grandma's closet. You spot a cluster of chrysanthemum flowers, bright and inviting. The gardener shares that chrysanthemum tea was often consumed to lower fevers and calm nerves. You sip some of the pale yellow infusion he's prepared, feeling a light warmth spread through your chest. Historians still debate whether such herbal gardens were primarily medicinal or spiritual in nature. Some argue they served both, blending science and faith into a single holistic practice. Either way, these gardens were places of quiet hope and healing. Then he points to a patch of wild garlic. This, he says with a grin, is medicine and cooking all rolled into one. Ancient Koreans believed it helped balance the body's energy and keep colds at bay. You nibble a leaf, the sharp, garlicky flavor awakening your senses. One quirky tradition the gardener mentions is how some healers used to press leaves of Pilla into the skin to treat insect bites, believing the leaves' cooling properties soothed itching. While modern science might question the efficacy, you can't help but imagine the relief it must have brought on a hot summer's night. As the light fades, the gardener invites you to take a deep breath of the garden's mingled scents. Herbs, earth, and a faint trace of smoke from a nearby hearth. It feels grounding, like a slow exhale after a long day. You stand, feeling a calm certainty settling in. In ancient Korea, healing wasn't just about fixing symptoms. It was about weaving health into the fabric of everyday life, through gardens, rituals, and the simple, steadfast presence of nature itself. You step away from the garden and follow a narrow trail that leads to the edge of a shimmering river where the water moves slow and smooth, reflecting the fading colors of the sky. Here, a small group of villagers gathers, dipping their hands and feet into the cool stream, sharing stories and laughter with a lightness that feels infectious. You settle nearby and notice an older woman gently preparing a bowl of rice porridge, stirring it slowly as steam curls upward. She tells you that this simple dish, juk, was a cornerstone of healing food in ancient Korea, a warm, soothing meal often given to those too weak to eat solid food. The porridge is made from finely ground rice, cooked until it's soft and creamy, almost like a lullaby for your stomach. She explains that juk was commonly infused with medicinal ingredients, pine nuts for energy, ginseng for vitality, and sometimes red beans for their nourishing qualities. You might think it's just plain porridge, she says with a smile, but for many, it was the first step back to health. You take a spoonful, the warmth spreading through your body in a way that's both comforting and quietly energizing. The woman shares a lesser-known practice, adding fermented soybean paste, doenjang, to porridge not only enhanced flavor, but also aided digestion and supported the immune system. A bit like the ancient Korean probiotic, she jokes softly. Nearby, children splash in the shallows, their laughter echoing softly as the sun dips further. You watch as villagers take turns washing herbs in the river, the water gently cleansing both the plants and their spirits. Historians still debate whether the therapeutic value of juk came more from its nutritional content or its symbolic role in nurturing community and care. What's certain is that it was much more than food. It was a gesture of compassion, a ritual of recovery. The woman mentions another curious custom. During illness, family members would gather around the patient, sharing juk and encouraging quiet rest. This communal aspect of healing, food as comfort and connection, feels timeless and deeply human. You notice a faint scent of pine and river moss mingling in the air, grounding you in this peaceful moment beside the flowing water. The day's warmth softens into a gentle coolness, and the steady murmur of the river lulls your thoughts toward calm. As you finish the porridge, you reflect on how healing in ancient Korea was never rushed. It was patient, tender, and lived in everyday acts. The slow stirring of rice, the shared laughter by the river, the gentle care that wrapped around each moment like a warm quilt. As twilight deepens, you follow a winding path into a quiet courtyard where the air is thick with the scent of toasted grains and honey. Here, an elderly man carefully tends a small hearth, stirring a bubbling pot filled with a fragrant mixture of herbs and roots. He beckons you closer, his eyes twinkling with the pride of a lifetime's knowledge. He explains that this is Sanghua Tang, a nourishing chicken soup infused with ginseng, jujubes, garlic, and sticky rice. Though often enjoyed as a summer restorative, it was also revered as a healing food, believed to replenish energy and strengthen the body's resistance to illness. You watch as he ladles the steaming broth into a simple bowl, the aroma rich and inviting. Taking a sip, you taste the warmth of the ginseng mingling with the sweetness of jujubes, the tender chicken melting into the broth. It's the kind of meal that wraps you in comfort, like a gentle hand on your shoulder. The man shares a quirky fact. Ancient Koreans believed that eating hot soup in the hottest days, called boknal, helped balance the body's yin and yang, preventing summer fatigue. It sounds backwards, he chuckles, but sometimes the best way to cool down is to warm up. Historians still debate how much of Sanghua Tang's healing reputation is rooted in actual medicinal effects versus cultural symbolism. What's clear is its enduring place at the heart of Korean wellness rituals. You ask about the choice of ingredients. He explains that ginseng was considered a king of herbs, prized for boosting stamina and mental clarity. Jujubes, with their sweet, tart flavor, were thought to nourish the blood and calm the mind. Garlic, a pungent addition, was valued for its antibacterial properties, a natural defender against common ailments. He also tells you about a lesser-known custom, adding small amounts of cinnamon and ginger to the soup, both warming spices that enhance circulation and digestion. It's like a slow dance inside your body, he says, smiling. As night deepens, the man invites you to rest by the hearth, where the soft crackle of firewood and the gentle simmer of the pot create a lullaby of warmth and comfort. The soup's scent lingers in the air, mingling with the cool night breeze. You realize that healing foods like Sanghua Tang aren't just about physical nourishment. They carry a quiet ceremony, a mindfulness that slows time and invites you to savor each moment of care. It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest meals can hold the deepest healing. You finish your bowl, feeling the gentle pull of sleep creeping in, wrapped in the soft glow of the hearth and the lingering taste of ancient wisdom. Section 11. The night wraps around you like a velvet cloak as you wander toward a softly lit pavilion where lanterns sway gently in the breeze. Inside, a small group is seated around a low wooden table, sipping on a thick, reddish liquid with curious expressions. You learn they are drinking Sanghua Tang, a traditional herbal tonic often given to those recovering from fatigue or illness. The taste is earthy and slightly sweet, with hints of cinnamon, licorice, and ginger mingling in the brew. You take a slow sip, feeling the warmth spread through your body like a quiet embrace. The mixture is said to boost circulation, ease digestion, and calm the nerves, a holistic comfort for both body and mind. The elder at the table explains that Sanghua Tang was once considered a medicine for the brave due to its strong, somewhat bitter flavor. "If you can drink this without wincing," she jokes softly, "you're well on your way to recovery." You notice a small bowl of pine nuts nearby, another favorite healing food used to replenish energy and improve memory. The pine nuts have a delicate, buttery flavor that contrasts pleasantly with the tonic's spiciness. The group shares stories of how Sanghua Tang was traditionally used during long, cold winters or after childbirth when the body needed extra support. It was also a common remedy for insomnia, believed to soothe restless minds without harsh sedation. Historians still debate the precise origins of Sanghua Tang, with some suggesting it evolved from Buddhist monastic recipes, while others argue it reflects a blending of indigenous and Chinese herbal traditions. Regardless, its role in Korean healing culture is indisputable. One quirky detail the elder mentions is that in some regions, Sanghua Tang was sweetened with honey or Juju syrup to make it more palatable, turning a bitter tonic into a comforting treat. She invites you to try a spoonful of the honey, which softens the flavor and adds a floral sweetness. As you sip the tonic, you feel a soothing calm descend, the subtle spices gently coaxing your muscles to relax. The lantern light flickers softly, casting dancing shadows that mimic the slow rhythm of your breath. You realize that this communal ritual of sharing healing tonics is as much about connection as cure, a reminder that recovery often blossoms in the warmth of shared care and gentle traditions. You find yourself meandering toward a humble kitchen where the aroma of fermenting vegetables fills the air, a scent both tangy and comforting, like a slow, ancient dance. The woman tending the jars explains that kimchi, Korea's famous fermented cabbage dish, was more than a flavorful staple. It was a natural medicine revered for its health benefits. She scoops a small portion from a wooden barrel, offering you a bite. The crunch is sharp, the flavors lively and complex, a balance of sour, salty, and a whisper of sweetness. "Kimchi helped keep colds at bay," she says, "and it was a vital source of vitamins during harsh winters." The fermentation process, she explains, produces probiotics, beneficial bacteria that support digestion and immunity. You remember from your earlier tea with the woman by the river that ancient Koreans understood, perhaps instinctively, how food could nourish more than just the body's surface. Historians still debate the exact origins of kimchi, with some suggesting it evolved over centuries from simple salted vegetables to the spicy varieties we know today. What's clear is its central place in Korean diets and healing practices. She shares a curious tradition. During times of illness, special kimchi varieties were prepared with added herbs like garlic and ginger. believed to enhance the immune-boosting properties. These variations were often reserved for the sick or elderly, a culinary hug of care. You ask about unusual uses, and she smiles, mentioning that some families would mix kimchi with medicinal rice porridge or use the brine as a base for herbal soups, both methods to deliver healing nutrients gently and effectively. One quirky note she adds is that certain types of kimchi were stored underground in large clay pots called ongi, allowing them to ferment slowly and develop deeper flavors throughout the cold months. This traditional storage technique also preserved the probiotics, enhancing the food's healing qualities. As you savor the tangy flavors, you realize how fermentation, this slow transformation, mirrors the patient nature of healing itself. It's not about quick fixes, but gradual renewal, a process that nurtures resilience over time. You thank the woman and step back into the cool evening, carrying the sharp, lively taste of kimchi like a spark of life in the quiet night air. The night deepens, and you find yourself drawn to a softly glowing room filled with the warm scent of steamed grains and sweet roots. Here, an elderly healer carefully prepares a tray of yakbap, a traditional Korean sweet rice dish infused with honey, nuts, and dried fruits. It's more than a dessert. It's a tender offering meant to soothe and strengthen. You watch as the healer mixes glutinous rice with chestnuts, jujubes, and pine nuts, binding them together with fragrant honey. She explains that yakbap was often served to the sick and elderly to replenish energy and provide gentle nourishment, especially during convalescence. Taking a bite, you savor the soft, chewy texture, the sweetness balanced by the earthy crunch of nuts and the subtle tartness of dried jujubes. It's a treat that comforts without overwhelming, a reminder that healing can be as much about pleasure as necessity. She shares a little-known fact. In some regions, yakbap was used as an offering during ancestral rites, symbolizing wishes for health and longevity. The dish bridged the worlds of the living and the spiritual, weaving care and tradition into one. Historians still debate the extent to which dishes like yakbap were considered medicinal versus symbolic, but the gentle overlap between food and ritual is unmistakable. The healer's hands move slowly and carefully, honoring each ingredient's role. You learn that the nuts and honey in yakbap were prized for their nourishing qualities, pine nuts for their memory-boosting effects, and honey for its natural antiseptic and energy-giving properties. Together, they formed a quiet powerhouse of gentle healing. The healer chuckles softly, telling you about a quirky old belief that sharing yakbap with someone could transfer vitality and good fortune. It's like passing along a little jar of sunshine, she says. You feel the warmth of the room, the soft glow of lanterns, and the quiet reverence for these healing foods settle around you. It's a pause, a breath, a moment of calm in the unfolding night. As you finish your bite, you realize that in ancient Korea, healing was a blend of senses, stories, and shared moments. A mosaic of gentle practices that nourished body and soul alike. The night grows quieter, and you find yourself wandering through a narrow alley lined with small shops, softly illuminated by paper lanterns. One shopkeeper beckons you inside, where shelves are lined with jars of colorful powders and dried roots. She introduces you to the ancient practice of medicinal teas, a calming ritual woven into daily life. She prepares a steaming cup of omija cha, a tea made from the five-flavor berry, known for its unique balance of sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and pungent tastes. As you sip, the complex flavors unfold slowly, soothing your throat and calming your mind. The tea was traditionally believed to enhance vitality and clear the senses. The shopkeeper explains that omija was often recommended for recovery from fatigue or stress, a gentle tonic rather than a harsh stimulant. The berry's blend of flavors mirrors the delicate balance ancient Koreans sought in their healing foods, a harmony of tastes for a harmonious body. You notice jars of other herbal blends, including chrysanthemum and licorice root, each with their own calming properties. She shares that herbal teas were often prescribed alongside meals or before bed to encourage restful sleep and digestion. Historians still argue whether these teas were valued more for their actual health effects or their role in calming the mind through ritual and routine. Either way, the practice remains a testament to the thoughtful integration of food, medicine, and mindfulness. A quirky tidbit she shares. Some believe that drinking tea from certain clay pots enhanced the tea's healing power, thanks to the pot's mineral composition. While modern science might be skeptical, you can't help but imagine the cozy comfort of this old belief. As you finish your tea, the shopkeeper invites you to imagine the gentle rhythm of daily life in ancient Korea. Waking with the dawn, preparing food and medicine with care, and ending the day with a warm cup that whispers calm. The lantern light flickers softly, wrapping you in a sense of peace as you prepare to continue your journey toward rest. You drift toward a quiet temple garden bathed in moonlight, where the air is fragrant with blooming magnolia and soft rustles of night insects create a gentle soundtrack. Here, monks move slowly, preparing simple meals infused with mindfulness and reverence, embodying the final thread in the tapestry of healing foods. They serve bap, steamed rice, alongside delicate vegetable dishes and herbal infusions, emphasizing balance and purity. The monks explain that such meals were designed not only to nourish the body, but also to cultivate inner peace and clarity, a holistic healing of body, mind, and spirit. You notice the serene atmosphere, how the act of eating becomes a meditation, a slow savoring that deepens your connection to the food and the present moment. This mindful approach to nourishment was as vital as any herbal remedy or tonic. One monk shares a lesser-known tradition, the use of lotus root in temple cuisine, prized for its crunchy texture and symbolic purity. Lotus root was believed to aid digestion and cleanse the body, fitting perfectly into the monk's gentle healing philosophy. Historians still debate how much Buddhist dietary practices influenced broader Korean healing foods, but the emphasis on balance, simplicity, and harmony clearly resonates throughout. You take a slow bite of the rice and vegetables, feeling the calm deepen with each chew. The cool night air mingles with the scent of incense, wrapping you in a cocoon of quietude. The monks chant softly, their voices weaving into the night as you close your eyes and let the peaceful rhythm lull you toward rest. You feel a sense of completion, a full circle from the fields and kitchens to this tranquil garden. Healing in ancient Korea, you realize, was never hurried. It was a patient unfolding, a blending of food, ritual, and mindfulness that gently led one back to health and calm. Now, as you let your breath grow slow and even, the moonlight fades into a soft dreamscape. You've reached the end of the journey. Time to gently drift away. The night has carried you through gardens, kitchens, and quiet rooms, revealing how ancient Korea's healing foods wove nourishment with care, community, and mindfulness. Each bite, sip, and ritual was a soft invitation to rest and recovery, blending the physical and spiritual in a slow, soothing dance. Remember, healing is often less about haste and more about patience. Like a warm bowl of porridge or the gentle warmth of a herbal tea, it's the small, tender acts that carry us through. Now dim the lights fully, nestle into your coziest spot, and let the quiet calm of these ancient traditions carry you softly to sleep.